Today we're going to talk about the next strategy in our house hacking mini-series, the rent-a-room strategy. What's going on, guys? My name is Chris. I'm the co-founder and director of finance and investor relations with Boselli Brothers Real Estate. Today, we will be diving into the next installment of our house hacking series and talking about the rent-a-room strategy. In this video, we're going to cover a general recap of what house hacking is and why you should seriously consider it if you want to reduce your housing expense and get started in the world of real estate investing. We will then give an overview of the rent-a-room strategy and some different specific applications of how you can start using it today. Then we will dive into some key benefits as well as some disadvantages of this strategy. And finally, we are going to show you some clear and concrete steps that you can take to set yourself up for success if this strategy is something that you really want to pursue. But before we get into it, if you guys like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe below. It helps the channel more than you know, guys, and it will allow us to keep putting out great free content like this all the time. All right, let's get right into it. Housing is the biggest expense for the vast majority of Americans. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the average American spends roughly 1/3 of all their expenses on housing. If you buy a house to live in yourself, you are stuck paying this mortgage 100% on your own. In general, house hacking is using different creative strategies to help generate income from your primary residence. There are several ways you can do this. In fact, in our introduction to house hacking video, linked right here, we went over 6 unique strategies that you can use to get started house hacking today. In this video, we will focus on the rent-a-room strategy. So what is the rent-a-room strategy? It's pretty self-explanatory. Rent-a-room is a strategy where you rent out individual bedrooms in your house to different tenants, all paying rent every month, instead of renting out the entire house to one single tenant or one group of tenants. This can be a great strategy for several reasons, as it allows rental properties to actually pencil out in terms of the numbers when you're trying to rent in the highest price markets like Boston, New York City, San Francisco, etc. Or if you're not in an extremely high price market, it can just be another tool to help you maximize your potential profits. All the while, you are also providing an alternative, lower cost solution to renters. There are several different ways to utilize the rent-a-room strategy. This includes long-term, which is 12+ months on your standard 1-year lease. You can do this quickly even by renting out rooms to your friends or other people if you have spare bedrooms in your primary residence. You can utilize one of several roommate finder apps such as Roomy, Roomster, Room Easy, Bunk Up, SpareRoom.com, Zumper, RoomGo. There's so many of these guys. Just go ahead and Google, find a roommate near your city. You could also do midterm rentals. PadSplit is essentially an Airbnb for midterm rentals, where people will go on and rent a room in your house for an average of 6 to 9 months. PadSplit acts as sort of an Airbnb, where it will help get you these tenants and then manage the contractual obligations and move in and move out times with the tenants for you, essentially acting as your midterm property management company. Another way to do midterm rentals is by doing corporate rentals with companies like traveling nurses or airline pilots to provide their employees with a place to stay. And of course, you can also do short-term rentals on apps like Airbnb or vrbo. Just choose the rent a spare bedroom option instead of rent your whole house. And this can be great for just utilizing some extra space you have if you don't want to have more permanent roommates. As a bonus option, you could also do something like a bed and breakfast if you want to provide a more experienced style stay to your guests. Next, we're going to get into some benefits of doing the rent-a-room strategy. The first couple of benefits will be pretty repetitive from the other house hacking strategies, but I want to hit on them just in case you didn't watch the other videos. So number one would be reduced monthly cost of living. This is the same idea as the other strategies and the general gist of house hacking, as it just allows you to reduce your housing costs by bringing in other people to help pay your mortgage for you. A second benefit is competitive financing options. Again, this is the same idea as discussed in our multifamily house hacking video. Go ahead and check that video out if you want to get the full breakdown of these different advantages. But at a high level, since you will be living in the property as your primary residence, this opens up several key financing benefits to you that you do not get if you just buy it as an investment property. This includes ability to put less money down on the investment. Programs like FHA loans through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are government-backed lending agencies, start at as low as 3.5% to 5%. If you're a member of the military or a veteran, you can also use VA loans, which start at 0% down. Another advantage of house hacking financing, as it will be your primary residence, is competitive interest rates of these programs. Typically, when you're buying investment properties or purchasing it through an LLC or a corporation, that automatically bumps your interest rate up at least a point to a point and a half. or 1% to 1.5%. Since you are the owner occupant and this is your primary residence, you will get the most competitive interest rate possible with your credit score. And finally, some programs like the FHA 203K loan, this means you get to roll the rehab costs into the loan and put that same 3.5% down and utilize that same lower interest rate on your rehab costs if you need to do a fixer-upper. This requires a lot more red tape, but the low down payment and low interest rate is much better than you would get on a traditional construction loan. Okay, now let's get into some more unique benefits of the rent-a-room strategy. A third third benefit is that increased chance of cash flowing in your higher price markets. With a single family home or even a duplex and sometimes a 3-unit in areas like San Francisco, New York City, Boston, you may struggle to cash flow with the extremely high price of properties. Renting by the room for slightly less per room allows you to maximize your top line revenue, aka rents coming in, to get the most cash flow possible out of your property. A fourth benefit is it allows you to maximize your cash flow while also providing a cheaper solution to renters in your area. So not only do you get to maximize your own cash flow, you actually get to provide cheaper housing to your tenants. This will undoubtedly help you to attract more tenants. In some of the most expensive markets like your New York City or San Francisco, studio apartments are going for upwards of $4,000 to $5,000 per month. If you can rent a room for $2,500 to $3,000 in these same areas, you are now piquing the interest of a lot of those other tenants. And a fifth and final advantage of the rent-a-room strategy is that due to this increased revenue potential, this strategy will give you a unique benefit and a unique edge when looking at and underwriting potential deals. Since your projected rent numbers will be higher, you don't have to be as competitive with your offer on the front end. This will help you make deals work that other investors will not be able to make work, and will give you a leg up on other investors during the offer process and during negotiations. Now, let's get into some drawbacks of the rent-a-room strategy. Your first drawback is going to be legal implications. This can be a big one, guys, and if you go into buying a house thinking that you're going to use this strategy and then run into one of these legal implications and cannot, you could be stuck in a bad position. You're going to want to check things like, if you're renting, is subleasing those individual rooms allowed in your lease? Are there any permits or licensing or zoning requirements that you need to worry about to run short-term rentals, or that would otherwise cap the number of people living in your home? If you own a condo, is setting up short-term rentals like this allowed by your HOA? I actually have a friend who has a condo in the San Francisco area, and he was recently deciding whether he wanted to move out and pursue a different career path, and in the process he was going to turn this condo into an Airbnb. However, when he looked at his HOA bylaws, he found that only 50% of all units in that building could be serving as a short-term rental at any given time. So now he is third or fourth on a wait list to actually be able to turn this property into an Airbnb and turn it into a meaningful investment where he can cash flow and move on from that property. A second drawback of the rent-a-room strategy is extreme lack of privacy. If you thought multifamily was bad, where you're just sharing a common general area with other tenants, try walking past your roommates that are also strangers on the way to your morning shower. You're also sharing common areas like the kitchen, all the bathrooms, cooking utensils, silverware. This is why the screening process is that more important in this strategy, which we'll touch on a little bit more later in the video. A third drawback is dealing with tenant disputes. As you and your tenants will be sharing a smaller living space in such close proximity to one another, this just means there are a lot more instances that disputes might arise. As the owner or manager of that property, you will need to act as a mediator in these disputes to ensure a peaceful living environment for yourself and your tenants. A fourth drawback is navigating common space use and general rules. Tenants in these short-term rent-a-room arrangements will be sharing everything from common areas like kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms, yard, parking spaces, appliances, supplies like toilet paper, paper towels, dish pods for the dishwasher, cooking spray, cookware. You need to have very well thought out rules and regulations for how to handle every one of these situations. Build these into your very robust lease to ensure there are no questions when these situations arise. This part will lead to a lot more upfront work than a traditional rental, but will help you avoid those back-end headaches. And finally, guys, let's talk about how you can set yourself up for success if you choose to pursue the rent-a-room strategy. First and foremost, the number one thing you can do to set yourself up for success is screening your tenants properly. As a general rule of thumb, you want to have good tenant screening practices anyways, but renting by the room requires additional considerations on top of those general screening requirements. Obviously, you still want to check your normal things like income, job history and stability, credit score, criminal history, and employer or landlord reference checks in compliance with your local rules and regulations, of course. But you may want to also consider some additional things. These things are more compatibility based to ensure the new tenant will fit into the existing environment with you and your other tenants. This is much more like looking for a common roommate in that you want to consider things like lifestyle, habits, hobbies, personality, work schedules. For example, if you have someone that works nights and might sleep during the day, and one of your other tenants is a music teacher that teaches children piano lessons from home during the day, that's not going to work. Also, if you have someone that does not like to go out on the weekends and prefers to wake up at 6 a.m. on Saturdays for CrossFit classes, nothing wrong with that. But if you and the rest of your roommates like to go out on Friday and Saturday nights, this can lead to tension. Disclaimer here, guys, it is very important to understand discrimination laws when performing these checks. Depending on where you're investing, these these laws do differ, so please consult with a local attorney or property management company, somebody that knows these laws in your area, to ensure you are not setting yourself up for potential legal headaches down the road. A second tip for setting yourself up for success with the rent-to-room strategy is establishing clear house rules. This includes common area rules and just establishing a culture of being open, honest, and respectful of your fellow tenants and housemates. Here are some good examples of some house rules to establish upfront and include in your lease agreement. Set a specific time for quiet hours so everyone can sleep peacefully. Do these adjust slightly on weekends? Be clear on established quiet hours and any situations where all tenants can mutually agree to extend or adjust as needed with mutual written consent. Cleaning responsibilities. Establish clear cleaning responsibilities for the common areas to agree how often the area should be cleaned, what goes into cleaning each area, and who covers what. Consider creating a cleaning schedule to ensure everyone's aware of their responsibilities. Guest policies. Determine how many guests are allowed. Are they allowed during the week or only during the weekends? How long can they stay? Where do they park? Do guests need to be approved in advance? Also, consider setting limits on the total number of guests allowed at one time and making your tenants sign an agreement that says they are liable for all guest conduct while on the premises. Smoking policies. Establish whether or not smoking is allowed in or around the house, and if so, what areas it is permitted in. Shared resources. Clearly define how shared resources like the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, the TV, cookware, the showers. Will you establish a shower schedule so everyone can get out the door to work on time in the morning? Parking situation. If you have a driveway, who is permitted to park there? Storage space. Will you have designated sections of the refrigerator or the pantry to use for each tenant? A third tip for setting yourself up for success in the rent-to-room strategy is having a rock-solid rental agreement. This will include everything we just discussed here, as well as clearly communicating all of these stipulations to your tenants in advance and ensuring that they read through this entire lease agreement so there's no confusion when it comes time for them to move into the property. Use a lawyer to help draft your lease agreement to ensure it complies with local rules and regulations, and to ensure you as the landlord and tenant are protected. And 4, constantly refine and adapt these rules and your screening criteria. Guys, there's no doubt using this strategy, there is no way you're going to account for every little thing that could possibly go wrong up front. So as new issues pop up, be sure to learn from your mistakes and put new safeguards for these situations into your tenant screening and your lease. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know, and it will allow us to continue putting out great free content like this all the time. Head over to our website, subscribe to our newsletter for all things real estate and investing news. Again, I'm Chris with Boselli Brothers Real Estate. We'll see you next time. Housing accounts for roughly 1/3 of everyone's the house hacking strategy. Today, we're going to talk about
Shut up.
Shush! Shut up! Shut up! Why can't I talk? Ryan?